It still will be your turn.
Year 8 parents, good afternoon. Please accept my sincere apologies for the delay there. I myself have just moved from the year 11 parent evening, and then we needed to wait for parents to make their way over from the tutor time sessions. I'm so sorry, and thank you for your patience and waiting for us this afternoon. But year 8 parents, it is simply lovely to be able to be together in some way. I'm so sorry that we're not able to be together in person, but I'm sure you understand why we are taking a very cautious and prudent approach to the mixing of people at the moment. And that is because the most important thing is that your child is able to be in school every day safely, thriving with their curriculum, and that we are able to bring those broader opportunities on board. So we will continue to take this cautious approach at the moment, but we do hope in time, quite soon I hope, to be able to welcome parents more regularly and freely into our school building as we once did, something that I know you as wonderful Archer parents have had less experience of, and please know how aware of that I am. But the purpose of this evening is to ensure that you as parents feel informed and confident and supported in the next steps for your precious child as they make their way through year 8. And what a wonderful start they have made over the past week. It's simply been wonderful to see how quickly they have jumped into being a more senior year group in school, how quickly they have adapted to new routines and expectations, how able they are to build on those outstanding foundations that they have from year 7. They had such a successful year despite challenges, despite that period of lockdown, despite not having everything we would have dreamed of for them in relation to enrichment and workshops and trips. We know that they have a solid, confident educational foundation in which to build even greater success and in which to thrive even further. Now, I'm delighted this afternoon to be joined by Mr. Wick, your child's head of year, and I know many of you may not have the chance to meet him in person, but I know and hope that you've been busy talking with him on the phone. But it's very clear that he's quickly set out a very strong agenda for your child's year group and how well they are already working together. So I'm going to hand over to Mr. Wick, and then he's going to pass back to me to enable me to share some sort of further key messages with you and about your child's curriculum and education this year. But what's really key as I set up for Mr. Wick is to be so conscious that the curriculum has evolved for your young person this year, as it rightly should. We take great pride here at the Archer in every year demonstrating curriculum growth and further personalisation. Things that we know young people respond incredibly well to, and that is why we feel we get the kind of outcomes that we do, why we see ourselves and find ourselves in the top 10% of all schools nationally for GCSE results. I hope that they will really flourish in those new curriculum opportunities this year as they work their way through enthusiastically and steadily what is the final year of the Archer Explorer stage of the Archer graduate journey. What's key is that they do take every opportunity that they are given, and that when that enrichment curriculum is offered to them in 2 weeks' time, that they really do strike out and do things differently, that they try something that they have never tried before. Mr. Wick will touch on flight paths and how that progress journey explores and grows as your child moves through year 8 so that they are best placed and ready for year 9. But just to highlight to you now, parents, that we are currently reviewing your child's flight paths based on their progress in their assessments at the end of year 7, and that reviewed year 8 working flight paths will be sent home to you in the first week of October, so that you know the position that we're starting your child at and what we are aiming for them this year. And we can ensure that that's really joined up and ensure that they are best placed for stretch, challenge and support, being conscious that if there are any gaps in learning because of the challenges of the last year and self-isolation periods in particular, that additional support and tutoring will be put in place for your child. Okay. Well, I look forward to coming back to you in just a few moments, but it's now my great pleasure to hand over to Mr. Wick. Mr. Wick.
Hello, can you hear me? Fabulous, great. Hello, my name is Mr. Wick, and from the end of last year to this year, I've had the really great pleasure to become the head of year 8. I've gotten to know so many of your children from being their science teacher over the past year, but then getting to know them much better has been wonderful through the Year 8 tutor team as their pastoral support. I've got some key messages to share with everyone that I'd like to speak about today. So if you bear with, I'm just going to share what I can. Hopefully it works incredibly straightforwardly. Miss Harrison, can you see what I'm expecting people to see? Fabulous work. Right, maybe I can hide this a bit somehow. I'll put you through there then. Lovely. A lot of what I'm showing today is something that I've shown your children last week when we had our welcome back. And this specific image I wanted to show and share why I showed this. Obviously, I've typed in the word welcome back into Google Images and I've used it to find a cool little image that we can share. But I've chosen this one, and I forget exactly who it was, but a student Year 8 commented on how colourful it was and how much they appreciated that. My intent for it being so colourful was really to show that, you know, we're welcoming back a number of different people, a number of different students, some new students, some new teachers into a new school environment, hopefully in a place where COVID won't get as in the way as it had done last year. Our year group are incredible in just how colourful we are, how many different interests and ways of life people have, and part of this year for my vision is to try and include that and to create what I'm calling the Year 8s collective. The journey of the Year 8s this year, well, we started coming back at school, and then after this half term, so next half term, we're going to be starting enrichment, which is one of the biggest, most exciting changes to this year that last year really didn't have. Enrichment is when students start to choose some of the after school clubs, activities or learnings that they want to focus on every Tuesday and Thursday after school. We as form groups have been picking charities that each form group will be supporting, and then after that there'll be a form charity project that again we can do to go from a kind of a Year 8 collective as a year group to a Year 8 collective as part of the wider world that we can support those in need. Then later on in around February, students will start to have a think about and go through their Year 8 GCSE choices. During that time, they'll receive assemblies for each of the subjects that they could choose, and then they'll be given forms to fill in to do that, which I'm particularly excited about because these Year 8s are hungry to make choices within their life. They're wanting to grow up and feel more mature, and this is part of our Archer vision to help complete that. By the end of this year, we are hoping Year 8s are feeling more and more ready for GCSE. It can happen it can happen where a Year 8 student will come to Year 9 and feel a little bit overwhelmed with some of the differences between Year 8 and Year 9, especially starting a new course in a more in-depth way with GCSE. So part of our end of Year 8 curriculum will start to focus on getting GCSE ready, getting them ready for different styles of work, and hoping that transition is much smoother. Myself, I am Mr. Wick. This is my email if anyone would like to write it down or to send me anything that you need to talk about. And my role as a head of year really is to be responsible for the pastoral care of the students in this year group. For me, extra, I also want to have pastoral care for the tutors who are supporting the students there. But basically speaking, any behaviour, safeguarding or attendance issues all come under my remit. Things that are relatively big is something that I would lead upon. Things that you might want to talk about regarding enrichment dates and Year 8 choices dates, that would be more under the tutor's role there. So I really am training and trained to support students and young people and their families on anything that is considered a bit bigger or a bit more serious in their school life. I'm quite looking forward to supporting students here, as having been at the school for about 6 years so far and being a tutor for those 6 years, part of the role that I've particularly found rewarding is supporting my tutees with things that are going on in their lives, which is a huge range, and it's something that I'm still excited to support in my role as it is now. I wanted to share with you the Archer target. The Archer target is something that Ms. Harrison and other members of the senior leadership team have put together as what I think is a really brilliant way to show off the missions, values and outcomes of the Archer Academy. So it starts with the mission. Our mission generally as a core of our school is to help students be inspired, to inspire their creativity, engage with our community and realise our potential in what we can be in life. I've used these missions and taken them to support my vision of Year 8 as well. Using these missions, we've got values that we want to instill in the students through their learning here, both in lessons as well as during lunch and break time, supporting each other, enjoying their lives here, but also achieving well in the work that they are completing. Because when they leave Archer Academy, we are hoping for these 6 outcomes: to be articulate in life, resilient to hard work, reflective in how well they're doing, collaborative with others, creative with any work they end up doing, and also analytical as well. And I think these outcomes really show off why Archer is working hard to bring students to that level. But to kind of bring things down to earth a little bit, I wanted to share this quote, which is to not wait until you've reached your goal to be proud of yourself, but instead be proud of every step you take towards reaching that goal. I think it's very easy for students and adults and myself and anyone to be very goal focused. And I think whilst that is incredibly helpful, one thing I want to focus on within the students is the progression they are personally making. Every student is different and every student deserves that individuality within that. And I am so proud of some of the steps that students are making towards these outcomes that the Archer have put forward. We were asked as a homework before coming into school this year to bring a piece of art that resonated with us, and I actually brought in this one. This is one of my favourite artists called Alex Gray, and Alex Gray makes incredible piece of artistry. As a biologist myself, I love the kind of biology aspects of this. However, this particular piece is called The Holy Family. The colours, the connectivity, and the kind of focus of this child in the middle, for me, really beautifully represents my year group and the year group, the pastoral team, and also wider teachers of this year group. Each member of the year group are both the sort of father figure on the left, the mother figure on the right, and the child figure in the middle. We are all of it working together as a Year 8 collective to hopefully instill confidence in your children and to bring them to that endpoint of the Archer target. I also think it's just a really pleasing looking image. To get us to that point of this Archer target, I've thought up 3 pillars that I want to really focus on to keep it simple for students and the pastoral team to pick up and use. The first pillar is the Year 8 collective, which I've used already. This concept that we are a Year 8, we are together, we are part of the Archer collective, which is part of the East Finchley collective, and we are part of the world. The idea of mental health and emotional and physical well-being being something to also support the Archer target. And finally, academic curiosity, which for the Year 8 is incredibly exciting because they get to start making choices regarding their future lessons and what they're learning. These 3 pillars, I hope, will take us through the year, and with this focus, will hopefully support students in having a brilliant time at school, but also getting the learning they need. On this, we are starting our 2nd year of Key Stage 3 at the Archer Academy, which has some specific aims. We want to build on the hard work of Year 7. We want to challenge them, make sure that they are feeling that subject specialism in the Key Stage 3 curriculum, make sure they can access their own mastery, but also make sure that parents are well communicated with of their progress, academic progress of their child, with also giving clear links to Key Stage 4 by the end of Year 8, moving on to Year 9. Your child is going to study a number of items that they have studied from last year. However, there's one thing in particular which is new, which is called SPEC. SPEC is a subject where students will learn about many different things, from politics to philosophy to relationship and sexual education to citizenship. It is quite a wide subject that students generally really enjoy because it's a space where students can overall access parts that they don't usually talk about under the normal curriculum. Our approach of Key Stage 3 is to identify specialisms. Each subject is broken down into big ideas, and we use these big ideas to report feedback to the students. We want the Year 7 and 8 curriculum to develop the skills that these big ideas create. Ultimately, we want the students to be curious, have adventure and have fun within their work, but also to support them in the hard work that they need to do. We use these five big ideas to differentiate the range of abilities that students will join us with. Okay, so that students are not so bored or even overwhelmed with what they're doing. Here is an example of English writing big ideas that English used to support it. Each big idea is used as a feedback system when students receive their essays back, for example, and it can be incredibly effective at ensuring that students get feedback which is specific to them, that they can run with, work with, and move on with, which I'm quite excited about regarding the big ideas when it was introduced. The big ideas are within the model of what we call at Archer the flight path model. We've got this flight path model as an aspirational design where students are able to be a bit more in control of their own learning journey. They feel themselves within their flight paths, and those flight paths will help them to understand from the big ideas how to improve. So within each flight path, of which there are 4, within each flight path there are 4, which is here. So there are 4 flight paths, which is purple, grey, green and black, from that order of increasing difficulty. We use this to show students whether they are on track, above target or below target. Within the flight path, there are each of those bigger ideas, and students use that flight path system to work out how on track with their learning are they. If a student is a green flight path student, that would mean that they should be tasked with green flight path tasks. They should therefore be completing green flight path homeworks, and if they are doing particularly well in those tasks or homeworks or assessments, then they have the potential to be seen as someone who's clearly working above their flight path consistently, and maybe they would move to a black flight path. And this is how we can track their progress. However, generally speaking, most students would stay within their flight path for the entire time that they're at Archer Academy, because it's exceptional circumstances where students will be above their flight path and clearly they were mis-flight path at the beginning. We want these flight paths to give this degree of challenge at 4 different levels. Normally, a student will stay on the flight path. We always look to move students up if we think it's appropriate, but never to a lower flight path. The flight path system is based on Key Stage 2 data. And using their Key Stage 2 data, we then challenge them appropriately based on the flight path that they're then put on. If they are meeting their levels or not, or they're going above their levels, we give reports out 3 times a year at each of the EG major points. So generally speaking, students in Year 7 have given, when they were in Year 7, they were given their initial working flight paths, which was roughly the same across subjects, but over time students have changed their flight paths up till now, as there are regular reviews. Just to move on for time's sake, we have Learning Review Day 3 days a year, and we will be communicating their progress up to date using the report system. And during those 3 times per year, you'd receive your report, and it'll look a little bit like this. This student is on a grey flight path for English, a purple flight path for maths, a purple flight path for science, you understand. Because of this, we can then work out what level that student is currently working at for that flight path. I can actually change this to a laser pointer so you might be able to see more easily. This student in question, in English, they're working above their grey flight path, which is brilliant to see. This student, if they consistently work above their grey flight path, could be a student who might move up within that. However, within science, for example, if they are well above for a certain amount of time, that's where flight path review would be far more necessary with them. They'd be moving up to a grey flight path. In this case, for maths, the student is below the flight path of purple, indicating that they're not quite meeting the expectation that their Key Stage 2 data was there to predict. And this is where our conversations during learning review days are incredibly helpful. So, At this point, that's my presentation for the time being. If there are any questions, please do ask. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, if I can work out exactly how to. There we are. Back to me. It's been lovely to share my vision with the Archer and the vision with the Year 8. If you do have any questions, please do email me at mrjwick@thearcheracademy.org.uk. Over to you, Ms. Harrison. Thank you.
Unmute, please, Lucy.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wick, and I do hope that that was helpful. Mr. Wick and Mrs. Marnie, if I could just check and see if there are any questions in the Q&A so that you can ask me those in a moment. So parents, if there are any questions that you have that you think would be particularly helpful to us right now, please do put those in the Q&A and we'll try and answer a couple of them now, but also Mr. Wick will use those to pull together some general responses for the newsletter on Friday afternoon. Please note every question is helpful to us at this particular time. But some points from me while you have a moment to think on any questions would be in relation to the importance of the opportunities of this year, and that is to really throw themselves into that subject specialist curriculum to help them begin to think about what is it that makes them tick. What is it that they are really enjoying? What's making them really think? I had the privilege this morning of covering a Year 9 geography lesson. We were learning all about global development and just seeing how much those young people were really enjoying the subject specialism there was a real treat for me. And that should be happening increasingly for your young person across this year, whilst also really benefiting from the broad opportunities that things like thematic learning are offering them in developing their subject specialist skills. I would ask parents that you are very conscious of your child's use of mobile phones and screens at this stage in Year 8 and moving forwards. We are very conscious of e-safety and their ability to keep themselves safe. And over the coming weeks and months, there will be some opportunities for them to have some very Year 8 orientated e-safety training, but also for you as parents as well. But I would urge as far as possible that you think carefully about the boundaries that you feel you have in place at home, particularly around mobile phones not being in the bedroom at night, and really thinking about that message we've discussed before as a community about that 9 p.m. watershed, moving away from screens at 9 o'clock. A very scary statistic for all of us as educators and parents is that the most common age in which nude selfies are sent between young people is in Year 8, and the most common point in which they are sent is when you think that they are asleep. So please, we mustn't hide from that very powerful and frightening national data. What we have to do is to protect you and your child so that they can make good and safe choices for themselves. So please be very conscious of that. Will be very shared messaging around screens and safety so that they can enjoy their social media, but that they can be safe as well. More broadly, in relation to their well-being, if at any point you are worried about your child's well-being, please don't ever hold on to that. Do share it with us so that we can best place support you and them and signpost the provisions and support that they may benefit from. But nothing is too small. If it's bothering you, then please do share that with us so that we can talk and listen together. Just a reminder on mobile phones that we have a very clear rule here that we do not allow smartphones at school, any kind of phone with a camera or access to the internet. That is a blanket rule that's so well respected in school. But just a reminder, parents, to you that I would always tell you before I would tell them, and that I'm very unlikely to change my mind there. So there is an absolute that we do not allow those mobile phones in school. Just going to just check with Mr. Wick and Miss Marnie if there are any questions for me at this stage. So Mr. Wick.
So one brilliant question is regarding Year 8 lockers and whether Year 8 are going to be receiving lockers. I wonder if Ms. Harrison, you can confirm.
Yes, so thank you, Mr. Wick, and that's a very good question. Year 8 are absolutely being issued with their lockers, and that is a key step forward to us after having had to have the zoned floors last year. And I know some of them are desperate to start being more organised with their possessions. Year 8 rollout of lockers will be happening over the coming week. What's going to be really key there is that your child is wearing their lanyard, because that's the best place to store their key. Those keys will be given to your child, but any replacement keys are then at £7 a time. So it would be in yours and your child's best interest to ensure that they are lanyard ready so that they can make the most of that locker in helping them to store their equipment and their possessions.
Thank you very much, Ms Harrison. We now have a very good question about our Year 8 cohort who sadly missed out on going to Kingswood. Parents would like to know if we have plans for a big Year 8 trip.
Absolutely. And whilst, of course, we made the very best of Kingswood at home, and some of my happiest memories were seeing them in action, it's not the same as it has been before. We have provisionally booked a summer residential for your child's year group, and Mr. Wick has the initial details there. We would like to send a letter out to you in the next fortnight outlining our ideas there about what we would like to do. We've had to be really careful to ensure that we meet the requirements of our insurance, that should we have to cancel that trip for COVID related reasons, that you and school would get all of their money back. So that's why we've just been a little bit cautious to ensure that we're meeting the requirements of our insurance there, because all trips that we've had to cancel so far, we've been able to refund parents in full. You may be aware that that hasn't been the case for all children at all schools nationally. So the intention at this stage is that first weekend in July, that first few days in July, that your child would have their residential weekend, and we look forward to sharing next steps with you there. But that's a real determination on our part that they have that opportunity.
Those are the questions that have come through so far.
Super. Well, thank you very much, parents, and if you do have any more questions, please do send them through to Mr. Wick, because that's just so helpful to make me think, goodness, we must get that letter out about that residential so that you know what they have to look forward to. Well, parents, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. I do hope that it has been helpful. I do hope you feel comfortable and secure. Reminder that those new working flight paths will be published in the first week of October. That's really good timing in advance of depth assessment fortnight, that is just those 2 weeks before October half term. And if I think about what it is that I want for your child, it's the same as it always is. And that is that I want them to be proud of themselves. I want them to feel that what they're doing is making them proud of themselves. That's a wonderful feeling for us to have. I want them to make you proud and for you to bask in some of that glory. And also that they make me proud, that they model and mirror the Archer way in all that they do, and that I can see that through their effort, their commitment, their character, their manners. Those are the things that make Archers stand out from other young people. That they model and mirror the Archer way in all that they do, and that they follow our school rule and hold that school rule. That is to work hard, but also to be nice to themselves and nice to others. For if we do that, then we find that most things tend to fall into place. Parents, thank you for your ongoing support and commitment to everything that school is trying to do. I very much look forward, I hope, to seeing you in person very soon. Bye-bye.